Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Alright, so I gotta start off this video by saying one specific thing. Leftoids, I think you guys are gonna have to sit this one out, seriously. And what I'm referring to specifically is what's going on in China right now as the people are revolting against the CCP lockdowns. You know how when this type of stuff happens, leftoids love to jump on the bandwagon. You know when you're totally devoid of character, then you make virtue signaling and allying with causes your identity. Insert the current thing chip and copy all the rhetoric and talking points into your biological hard drive, beep boop. We know how the NPCs work, but this time, leftoids, seriously, take a seat. You are not invited to join in supporting Chinese citizens fighting authoritarianism, because if you really think about it, leftoids have been trying to advocate the exact same things at home. And that right there is the topic of this video. How if you really pay attention to what's going into China, what it really is the American leftist wet dream. Let me show you guys exactly what I mean by that. We've got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so the context here, it seems as though Chinese citizens have had enough, at least a certain portion of them in certain places, as the CCP continues with their zero-coup policy. The communist regime in China is shutting down entire cities, welding people into their apartment buildings. If even a single case is detected, take a look at this. It's become absolute mayhem, it's total authoritarianism, and it's led to unprecedented outrage. Citizens are actually fighting back against the CCP. I'm sure a lot of you guys have already seen the clips of Chinese citizens brawling with police officers, breaking down barricades or chanting things in the street. And obviously the images are horrifying, but they're also not surprising at all. And it goes without saying that I stand with the people who are fighting this tyrannical regime. But what's really irking me here is seeing leftoids who, after 2 years of enabling government overreach and abuse of emergency powers to try to do the exact same thing here, seeing them jumping on the bandwagon. You don't get to do that, because everything that the CCP does and is doing, whether it be electronic passports, stopping people's ability to freely speak or freely travel, spying on people, locking people in, the whole list goes on. That is exactly the type of stuff that leftists were advocating at home. You know, there's different ways to look at what's going on in China right now, but you want to know what I'm taking from this whole thing? I'm taking it as a warning that actually this is what we're up against. When we're talking about these cultural battles or the importance of elections in the Western world, this is what comes to mind. Fighting against leftist authoritarianism, absolute government control. I look at what's going on in China and I feel for the people, especially because, to be completely honest with you, they don't stand a chance. I'm seeing some people on Twitter writing this might be the end of the CCP. Absolutely not. At least that's my view. First of all, Western nations and Western journalists aren't really giving it the light of day. I mean, look at what happened with Ukraine in terms of all the coverage, all the outrage. Now you have people's human rights being violated in China and you don't hear a single peep, because of course they're all bought and paid for. The Chinese people don't have the global support to fight for freedom. Secondly, the CCP has become an absolute all-powerful machine. Every single citizen is in the database, the facial recognition software with cameras everywhere, social credit scores, they are being tracked 24/7, 365 days a year. It's almost as if it's past the point of no return. Total near unstoppable authoritarianism, a communist dictatorship, having total control over the population, and the people just don't have the means to truly fight for their own interest and attain that freedom that they so desire. It's pretty much over for them. And you know where it always starts, folks, and here's where we're going to continue to make that connection to what's going on in China and what leftists in the US are trying to do. The first step towards authoritarianism is always one thing: disarming the population. You notice one thing about the protests in China: the people have absolutely no means to stand up against the communist regime. Hopefully I'm painting this picture in a coherent manner. I'm a little bit tired this morning, but you guys see the connection that I'm trying to make here, right? Everything that the leftists are fighting for here: government control over social media, government control over speech, government issued passports which dictate whether you can or can't travel, whether you can or can't speak, whether you can or can't work, and their attempts or their push for a disarmed populace. The list of course goes on, but those are the core tenets of authoritarianism and what's becoming techno-fascism. Well, what you are seeing in China is the result of those exact policies. A populace that does not have rights, that is being watched at every single point. It's exactly what George Orwell was warning in his 1984 novel. And it's exactly what Western liberals, we're not going to call them liberals, Western leftists, are trying to implement. This right here should have been a warning.
There's a level of admiration I actually have for China. Their basic dictatorship is allowing them to actually turn their economy around on a dime and say, we need to go green as fast as we need to start, investing in solar. I mean, there is a flexibility that I know Stephen Harper must dream about, of having a dictatorship that he could do everything he wanted. That I find quite interesting.
And of course, we know it's a slippery slope. I mean, just think back a couple months ago to the Freedom Convoy protest in Canada and how authoritarian leader Justin Trudeau dealt with that situation. Think back to the leftists and the media outlets over the last however many years who have been attacking freedom-fighting patriots as being radical extremists for challenging and not falling in line with all the government overreach and denial of rights and civil liberties. Meanwhile, they wrote stories attacking, slandering, and defaming you for essentially doing the same thing, standing up for your rights. You are a political extremist. You are a danger to democracy. Meanwhile, the people of China right now are fighting for democracy. Funny how that works. Lefties don't get to rewrite history on this one, as they so often attempt to do. Lefties aren't on the side of people protesting against authoritarian regimes. Lefties these days, not all of them, but a good chunk of them, are on the side of these authoritarian regimes. And that's the hypocrisy that is clearly evident to me. And again, the biggest thing that I'm getting here is the warning signs. What you are seeing there is what we are at risk of at home. Leftists want to talk about a threat to democracy. Yeah, that's you. Look at what your policies create on the other side of the globe. Look what happens when you centralize power in the government. Look what happens when you disregard the Constitution and people's basic rights to freedom, and you give the government absolute power and control over speech and movement. What's going on in China is sad, but it's a warning sign of where authoritarian leftism leads, where this globalist new world order goes, of computer systems tracking our every move. No longer are we individuals, but we're Citizen 1 and Citizen 2. Citizen 2,379,540. That's what's on my mind. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. I'm gonna get out of here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.